Hey guys, I'm back with another video continuing my freezer clean out series. If you did not see the last video I posted on this, I will link it in the description box below. However, I have a stockpile of food in my pantries and my freezers that I want to get used up, and so these meals are doing just that. Today we are going to be making some tacos. I'm also going to be making some spaghetti and salad, a really delicious recipe for grilled fish with mango salsa. I'm also going to be making some Mongolian beef, again using what I have in my freezer, along with a Thai cucumber salad, which turned out so good. And then the best recipe, allegedly, for banana crumb muffins. So let's get started. All right, so I'm gonna start out by sauteing some ground beef, and I'm using this everything seasoning from Auntie Nono's. I have been loving to use this when I saute any ground beef. You can see that I've had this container for, I don't know, maybe a month or two, and it's already almost half gone. So it is really delicious. And even though I'm going to add taco seasoning to my ground beef, I really only like to add 1 packet of taco seasoning per 2 or 3 pounds of ground beef. So I do like to season the meat a little bit when I first start cooking it. I just find that the meat is seasoned more to my liking when I use less taco seasoning. But anyway, after it's done cooking, I added some water, and I just like to simmer that over, medium heat for about 20 minutes until the ground beef gets tender. And then I tasted it and thought that it needed a little bit of extra spice. So I'm also going to add some of this Auntie Nono's firecracker salt, which is also delicious. P.S. That seasoning is really good on eggs if you like fried eggs. But essentially, I just kind of cook and stir this until it is seasoned to my liking. I am using flour tortillas for these tacos, and I like to heat them up in a dry skillet so they get warm and pliable and just a little bit toasty on the outside. Try that if you never have. I am going to put all of my toppings into bowls. So I've got some lettuce, some shredded cheese, some sour cream. Tacos are a great way to use up ingredients that you have on hand, especially if you've got meat in your freezer. You can make a taco out of anything. I mean, you could use ground turkey, ground beef. If you have a roast, like either a pork roast or a beef roast, you could use that as well. So tons of options there. I just filled my taco shells up with the ground beef mixture, added some cheese, some salsa, lettuce. You could add onion if you wanted to. I always like to add sour cream to ours. Sometimes you can garnish with a little bit of chopped cilantro as well. And just a tip, if you want to evenly distribute the sour cream over your tacos, put it in a Ziploc bag and cut the corner off. But this is always a delicious meal in my house. I know it's not revolutionary, but I always like to show you guys what I cook, real life meals, because we are not fancy around here. I'm really excited to be working with Auntie Nono's again this month. I did a video with them last month, and so many of you commented and said that you ordered their spices and seasoning mixes. So if you have, I would love to know in the comments below. But if you haven't, today is your chance because I've got an awesome discount for you. Auntie Nono's is made just for home cooks trying to get foolproof dinners on the table fast. And they have a variety of seasoning mixes. They have the firecracker sea salt blend, which is really great. My favorite is the everything seasoning because I do really put that on everything. And then they also have the seafood seasoning, which I'm going to be sharing a recipe with that a little bit later. It's really good on salmon, any type of fish, shrimp, anything like that. You can buy their spices individually, or you can also get them in a value pack. What I really love about their seasoning blends is that they aren't overwhelming, and you can add as much or as little as you like to give the desired seasoning and effect. And if you're going to get just one, I would definitely recommend the everything seasoning. It's so good on meat, and I've been putting it on like fried potatoes and different things like that as well. I also use it to season my veggies when I steam them. Either way, they are all delicious, and like I said, I've been using them for months now and highly recommend them. I'll have a link in the description box below, but you can get 50% off plus free shipping by using code GEN50. This will be live for a week after this video goes live, and then after that I'll have a different discount code, so make sure that you check the link below below to order your own Auntie Nono seasonings. I know you won't regret it. They are delicious and I highly recommend them. Okay, next up, we're going to make some spaghetti. This is another family-friendly dinner that everyone loves. And I'm using, again, the everything seasoning on my ground beef as I saute it up. You can see this includes salt, garlic, onion, spices, and it is really great on, like I said, ground meat when you're sauteing that. I also added some squeezed fresh garlic that I had in the fridge just because I had that on hand. And then while my beef is sauteing, I'm going to go ahead and open my can of crushed tomatoes. Basically, when I make spaghetti sauce, I just use whatever I have on hand. If I have crushed tomatoes on hand, I use that. I added some additional seasonings, basically Italian seasonings, to the ground beef. So basil, oregano, thyme, and then I'm adding my crushed tomatoes. This is a great way to make tomato sauce if you don't have any jarred marinara sauce on hand. I'm also going to add 1 can of regular tomato sauce along with the crushed tomatoes and essentially just stir that up. I like to simmer it for about 20 to 30 minutes if I can, if I have time, just to let the meat tenderize and definitely taste it. A lot of times when I use plain canned tomatoes, I do add a little bit of sugar, like even just like a teaspoon. It just helps cut down on the acidity of the tomatoes. I'm also going to cook some garlic bread with this meal. I had a bag in the freezer that I needed to use up. And again, trying to use up things in my pantry. I have a bag of bucatini that I got at Aldi a while back. If you've never used it, it's like a batter spaghetti and it is hollow in the middle. I think it's more commonly used for carbonara, but it works for spaghetti as well. So I'm going to go ahead and take my lettuce and I'm going to show you guys a trick here. So if you take your lettuce and you bang it down on the counter, the core comes right out. It's a great trick to use with iceberg lettuce. I can't remember where I learned that from, maybe Rachel Ray. But then anyway, after you get the core out, you can just go ahead and chop it up and add it to your salad spinner. I like to do that because that's where I like to wash my greens. And then I'm also going to cut up some Roma tomatoes since that's what I had on hand. Basically, I'm making one of our favorite salads, which is kind of like the Olive Garden copycat salad. I mostly always have all the ingredients on hand for it, and I always keep the Olive Garden salad dressing in my fridge. So it's super easy to put together, and it's also something that my whole family enjoys. Once the lettuce was done soaking and rinsing off, I'm going to go ahead and spin that dry in my salad spinner. And I love serving my salad kind of family style out of this bowl. I think I actually got this bowl on Amazon, if I remember correctly, so I can try and link it down below. But essentially, I just put my lettuce in the bottom. I add some Roma tomatoes, my olives, if you have those. If you have pepperoncini, you can also add that. It's really good. Red onion, if I had that, I probably would have added it. But here is our garden salad for this evening to go with our spaghetti. And then I also topped it with some croutons and a little bit of shredded Parmesan cheese. And we'll be serving that, like I said, with the Olive Garden, the OG dressing. Okay, so here is my marinara sauce after it has simmered for a little bit. You can see that it's thickened up and the beef is really tender. My kids love spaghetti with meat sauce. Honestly, sometimes I feel like Connor would just eat the meat sauce on its own, which is kind of ridiculous, but whatever. And then here is my bucatini all cooked up. I cooked up my garlic bread. Like I said, I had that in the freezer to use up. And then here is my plate. I know I'm weird. I like to put a little bit of cheddar cheese on top of my spaghetti. That's how I used to eat it as a kid because I didn't care for Parmesan cheese. And now, even though I like Parmesan cheese, I still add the cheddar to my spaghetti, which I know is weird, but I like it. And hey, if you haven't tried it, try it. It's good. So the next dinner that I'm going to make is some grilled fish with veggies and some couscous that I had in my pantry to use up. And basically, again, just trying to use up everything that I have in my house and not buy new. I'm going to use some of the Auntie Nono seafood seasoning. I've got 2 packages of mahi fillets and 1 package of salmon. And then I'm going to make a fresh mango salsa to go with this. So I've got mangoes, cilantro, jalapeno, lime juice, and peppers. And I'm going to go ahead and wash my cilantro in my salad spinner. Cilantro is super dirty. I mean, all vegetables are dirty, but definitely you should wash your cilantro. If you've never washed it before, you'll be surprised at just how dirty it is. So for the fish, I'm going to go ahead and remove that from the packages. And I just have one of these disposable cutting boards. They're the Dixie brand. I get them at Walmart, lined with a paper towel, just because I want to make sure that I dry the fish off. What I'm going to end up doing is seasoning it just with the Auntie Nono's seafood seasoning. And you don't need any other seasoning other than that because the salt's already in it. It turns out really, really great. And I love seasoning mixes like that where you don't have to use anything else. It's just so much, more easy and convenient than trying to get out multiple spices. Okay, so if you're going to grill fish fillets like this, I would recommend brushing them with a little bit of oil before you add the spices. This will just kind of ensure that the fish doesn't stick as much to the grates of the grill. It's kind of a hit and miss in terms of, what fish that you use. Mahi is really firm, and so I find that it doesn't really stick to the grill. But if you use a more delicate fish like tilapia, you may have to keep an eye on that, but it all tastes the same even if it falls apart. So I just brush these with a little bit of avocado oil, and then I'm adding the seafood seasoning. For the salmon, I have the skin on one side. I'm going to go ahead and leave that on while it's on the grill, and I'll remove it prior to serving it. But the mahi is skinless, so I'm going to go ahead and flip that over and season it on the other side as well. If you've never had mahi, like I said, it's a firm fish, but it's very mild. Even my kids like it. I don't know. My kids are not that picky. I would say Kira's a little bit pickier than Connor is, but both my kids love fish and salmon. They'll even eat shrimp once in a while. So I do feel like, especially a fish like this, especially if your kids need maybe an introduction to fish, this might be a good one to try. And if you can only find it frozen in your area, that's totally fine. Just thaw it out in the refrigerator and use it as you normally would. It's perfectly good fish. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and spin my cilantro dry, and I also like to dry that on paper towel, so I make sure I get all the water off. And for the mango salsa, I don't necessarily follow a recipe for this, but I'll put the ingredients in the description box below in case you want to replicate it. I'm using one bell pepper. This is a red bell pepper, but you could use green or orange or yellow, whatever you can find or whatever is cheapest or whatever you have on hand. I'm just cutting that up into small pieces. And then I add obviously diced mango to mine. I also like to add jalapeno because I do like it to have a little bit of spice. I don't include, a ton of the ribs and seeds because, well, my hope is that my kids would try this with their fish. They did not want to try it with their fish, but maybe they will at some point. Another good thing about mango salsa too is that it's really good with chips. So if you have more on hand, like I did, I had leftovers after we ate this meal, you can eat it on tortilla chips. You can top chicken with it. There's tons of different uses. For the mangoes, you want ripe mangoes that are still a little bit firm. You don't want them to fall apart when you dice them. And I don't even think I really process or cut mangoes in a way that you're supposed to. I use a vegetable peeler to peel them, and then I cut off obviously the flesh from the pit, and then I dice them. I don't know. I'm just a white girl trying to cut a mango, and I know I've struggled with it before, but it works for me. So you know what? That's fine. Just do what works for you too. I know that there's different tools out there that you can get to kind of like pit the mango, and you can keep it in the skin and dice it and scoop it out that way. But this is the way I found that works the best for me. And then what I do with the pit is I squeeze the pit with the rest of the flesh kind of over the mango salsa to get all of that extra juice out. That just helps kind of like sweeten the salsa a little bit and give it a little bit of extra flavor and juiciness. Next, I am going to chop up my cilantro. I like a lot of cilantro, but if you don't like cilantro, if it tastes like soap to you, I feel sorry for you. I'm sorry about that, but you could use green onions in place of the cilantro, or maybe even a little bit of parsley, but I'm just going to mince that up fine and add it to the bowl with the rest of the ingredients. Okay, so after I have everything in the bowl, I am going to squeeze my lime juice over the top. I ended up adding the juice of 1.5 limes to this. It It will depend on your taste. Obviously taste it and see what you think it needs. I also drizzle a little bit of honey in mine. Probably not super necessary, but that's always what I do. So I'm going to continue to do that. I season it with salt and pepper. And then I realized I forgot to add my minced red onion. I saw it in the bowl and I was like, there's something missing from this. And I was like, oh yeah, I needed to add some red onion. So I'm going to go ahead and chop this up or dice it up into small pieces. I'm just using a half of a red onion and then that is it. So at this point you can let it sit in the refrigerator until you are ready to eat. But like I said, this is a delicious topping for fish and it's super healthy and super light and great for a summer meal. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cook my 2 boxes of couscous. I wanted to make sure I had leftovers. So I added some butter to my saucepan. I'm going to add the water and the seasoning mix from the couscous. If you've never made couscous before, it's actually not a grain. It's actually just pasta, like little tiny balls of pasta. My kids love it and it only takes 5 minutes to cook. So after everything is boiling, you just turn the heat off, you mix the couscous in, you put the lid on it, you let it sit for 5 minutes and bam, it's done. So I'm going to let that sit while I make the rest of the meal. So I only had a small amount of broccoli to steam up with this dinner, but I had some other veggies in my fridge that I wanted to get used up. So I washed some snap peas and half a cucumber, and I'm also going to cut up a bell pepper. I like just setting like a plate of raw veggies on the table, especially when we eat dinner together as a family, because my kids will just snack on them. And if they're, still hungry after they eat their dinner, it's like, oh, here's some veggies. There you go. They like raw veggies, so I'm good with that. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and grill my fish. So I preheated the grill and then I turned it down to medium heat, and I'm going to go ahead and put my fish on there. For the salmon, I'm going to put that flesh side down and then I will turn it over on the skin side when I go to flip it. And you really only need to cook this for, I would say, 4 minutes per side, maybe 4 to 5 minutes per side. It cooks super quickly, so definitely keep an eye on it. And I have a fish spatula here, which works really well. I will link that down below, but you can see that my fish did not stick at all, which was awesome. So I'm just going to go ahead and give this a flip and let it cook for a few minutes on the other side. Okay, so like I said, I had a little bit of broccoli in the fridge, so I steamed that up. I added a little bit of butter. I'm going to add a little bit of that Auntie Nono's everything seasoning, which is really good on veggies. And then I'm going to go ahead and fluff my couscous. I have a fork here. So after that has sit, basically you just want to remove the lid and fluff it with a fork. And then you can just let that rest until you are ready to eat your meal. Okay, so here is Murphy begging for some food as per usual, but here is the spread we ended up with today. We had some watermelon and blueberries left over from 4th of July. We have our couscous here, our grilled salmon and mahi-mahi, mango salsa, steamed broccoli, some Crystal Light lemonade, and some raw veggies. And that's what we had for dinner on this night. Everyone loved it. No complaints. Here's my plate. I had the fish with a little bit of salsa, some couscous, and some broccoli. Super yummy and simple summer dinner. Okay, so this isn't really a recipe. It's more of a method, but I'm sharing with you how I make cooked shrimp for other recipes. So I have a pot of water here and I just cut a lemon into that and I added a healthy amount of the Auntie Nono's seafood seasoning. And I have about 1.5 pounds of raw shrimp here that I thawed out. Basically, I'm going to put that into the boiling water and that only takes a couple of minutes to cook. Now, I am removing this with a slotted spoon and putting it into an ice water bath. And you can use this shrimp in a variety of ways. So I actually cooked this for a shrimp cocktail dip that I make. And then I also kept it on hand in the refrigerator for salads. You can cook shrimp ahead of time just like you would cook chicken or anything like that. And I was trying to, clean out my freezer. So just kind of an idea for you if you have shrimp in your freezer to use up. And I will link that shrimp cocktail dip recipe down below. It's delicious if you've never tried it. Unfortunately, I didn't get any clips of it, but you can try that out if you check out that recipe down below. All right. Well, one reason why I love summer is because we can grill every night. And tonight I'm going to be making some ground beef cheeseburgers, obviously, and some hot dogs. So I have some of my ground beef in a bowl here. I'm seasoning it with the Auntie Nono's everything seasoning and some A1. I know that sounds weird, but if you've never put A1 in your burgers before. It's delicious. I mix everything together in a bowl, and then I like to form my patties on waxed paper. And what I do is I basically divide the meat into 6 equal portions, or however many burgers you want. I always cook extra burgers because I like having them on hand for leftovers. What I'll do is I'll heat them up like for lunch, and I'll make like a burger salad, or like kind of like a Big Mac salad. It's just kind of a convenient thing to have in the fridge left over for lunches. But essentially, when I get all of my patties kind of portioned out, I put them on a sheet of wax paper, and then I use another sheet of wax paper on the top just to press down and make sure that I get the patties nice and flat and even. And this really helps when you cook them on the grill because they are so flat and uniform. I've found that if you try to do it with your hands, sometimes the burgers will like puff up in the middle and then they won't get cooked all the way and they'll cook unevenly. But this method assures that you can make them as thin as you like. And bonus, you can basically store the burgers either in the fridge or on the wax paper until you are ready to grill them. Okay, so another thing I had to use up was a box of mac and cheese in my pantry, so I decided to make that on the side. This is just the Cracker Barrel mac and cheese. I think I got that at Walmart, but I'm gonna go ahead and boil that pasta while I cook the burgers and the hot dogs on the grill. Okay, so I preheated my grill and then I turned it down to medium heat, and I'm gonna go ahead and put my burger patties on there. Burgers grill pretty quickly. I would say maybe about 5 to 6 minutes on each side. Obviously do them to your liking. While those are cooking, I'm going to go ahead and slice up some of my toppings. So I actually found these tomatoes at the grocery store. They don't look too bad for this early in the season, but I'm slicing those up and I'm going to put them on a plate and season them with salt and pepper. That's always how I grew up eating tomatoes in the summer when I was a kid, and that's how Adam likes them too. So essentially I will have those out for anyone who wants to add a tomato to their burger or eat them plain. I'm going to go ahead and give my burgers a flip, and you can see that I like to cook my hot dogs on the top kind of rack of the grill. That just makes sure that they don't burn. My kids are not a fan of like the burnt hot dogs. I know some people like those. I don't mind eating them, but my kids are not super big fans of them. So I just like to cook those over the top, and that works out perfectly. Okay, so I'm going to season my tomatoes just super simply with some salt and pepper. And then I also wanted to put out some veggies with this meal as well. I had some buffalo dip in the refrigerator, and so I thought I would put out some raw carrots and some cucumbers and some snap peas. And then I also have half a head of lettuce. I went ahead and kind of tore that apart and put it on the plate as well because I like lettuce on my burgers. But here was our spread on this night. So we have our raw veggies there with our burger toppings. I've got pickles, ketchup, mustard, mayo. Everyone can fix their burger how they like it. I've got that sour cream dip, some olives. I did add some cheese to some of the burgers, and we've got our hot dogs there. Here is our salt and pepper tomatoes, lettuce. I put some chips out. We've got some buns and the mac and cheese, and this dinner was delicious. It hit the spot. Here is my plate. I like to eat a hot dog and then I eat a burger without the bun with some mac and cheese and some tomatoes. And yeah, definitely if you guys have a grill, get out there and grill yourself some dinner. It is awesome because you don't have to do many dishes. Okay, so the next meal I'm sharing with you is this Mongolian style beef from Kevin's. I believe I got this from Thrive Market and I've had it in my freezer for a bit. I'm also going to be making some dumplings and some jasmine rice and a cucumber salad that turned out really, really good. So that is tonight's meal. I did go ahead and rinse my rice just to make sure that it's fluffy when it cooks up, and I was experimenting with cooking it on the stovetop and it actually worked really well. I haven't always been able to cook rice very well on the stove, but I think the key is just to simmer it over super low heat and then turn it off and let it sit so it can finish cooking and absorb the rest of the liquid. So while that is cooking, I'm going to go ahead and unwrap my beef. I would say this was pretty good. I feel like the meat was was maybe a little bit dry, which kind of surprised me because it's supposed to be sous vide, but it was good. I'd probably buy it again. The flavors were really good. Okay, so for the cucumber salad, I boiled a mixture of vinegar, water, and sugar, and then let that cool. So that's going to be the base for my dressing. I kind of adapted this recipe out of a Chrissy Teigen cookbook that I have. I think it's actually the cookbook that she made with her mom. It has Thai food. I'm not at home right now, so I don't have it. I'm sorry, but I can link it down below. And essentially, once I had that base, I just added ingredients to it that I thought would be good. So I added some fish sauce and some grated ginger and a little bit of soy sauce and green onion, and it did turn out really good. I would definitely make it again. I was basically trying to recreate this bok choy salad that one of our local Asian restaurants has, and I think this is the closest that I've come to making it at home. So once I figure out the recipe for sure, I will post it again for you guys. But these are the dumplings that I was cooking, and these were fresh. They were not frozen, and so what I'm doing is just sauteing them in a pan with a little bit of avocado oil just to kind of get them brown on both sides. And at the end, I did add a little bit of water just to finish steaming them up, and they turned out really good. I ended up cooking more dumplings that I had a bag of in the freezer because the kids and Adam and I ended up kind of eating these as an appetizer as we were waiting for supper to get ready. So what you basically do is heat up the beef in a skillet, and then once it's like kind of defrosted and broken apart, you add the simmer sauce and then just simmer it until it's done. Back to the salad. So I added some baby carrots to that, and then I'm also adding some cucumber, which I'm chopping into kind of long strips, I guess, or short little strips, I guess you could say. This salad, I wouldn't make it too far ahead of time because the cucumber, as it did sit in the fridge for the next day or so, we had some left over, got a little bit soggy. So definitely keep that in mind. And then this is baby bok choy. If you've never tried this in a salad before, I would really recommend it. It's delicious. It's just kind of like a cabbage, a mild cabbage if you've never had it before. But here's what that looked like. I was so sad because I thought I had cilantro on hand and I didn't have any in my fridge. I really would have loved to add cilantro to this. So like I said, next time I make it, I'll let you guys know. Okay, so here is the Mongolian beef and the jasmine rice. And then these are the extra dumplings that I cooked up because I wanted to have leftovers. And here is how I served mine up. I basically just put a bed of rice down in a bowl, and then I put the cucumber salad on half, the beef on half, and ate it all mixed together. It was really delicious. Okay, so here's a little bonus recipe for you guys. This is from the New York Times, so I'll link the recipe down below. Supposedly one of the best recipes out there for banana crumb muffins, and I had some bananas that I wanted to use up. So first I'm making the crumb topping, which is softened butter with flour, sugar, and cinnamon. Pretty standard. I'm using my pastry cutter to cut that together, and then I'll set that aside, and I did go ahead and preheat the oven. I have 3 bananas here that I'm going to mash in the bowl. You definitely don't need a mixer or anything for this recipe, so that's convenient. I'm going to add 1 egg, and I think it's 1/3 cup of sugar, and then a little bit of melted butter. The recipe didn't call for it, but I added a little bit of vanilla because why not? I feel like all baked goods need vanilla. And then I added my flour and my baking powder and baking soda and salt, all of the dry ingredients. And I'm using my Danish dough whisk to mix this together. I'll link it down below. I got it on Amazon. It's super helpful for making muffins. I use it all the time. And then this recipe specifically said, do not use paper muffin liners. And I was like, okay, I don't know if these are going to come out of the pan, but I'm going to follow the recipe. But I sprayed the pan with nonstick cooking spray, and they did end up coming out of the pan, so that was great. And these are pretty big muffins. I went ahead and added the crumb topping to the top, and I did not use all of the crumb topping. There was a little bit left over, but I went ahead and popped these into the oven to bake for about 18 to 20 minutes. And I forgot to get a photo of them on the cake platter that I keep my muffins on, but these did turn out really, really good. So if you're looking for a banana muffin recipe, highly recommend this one. My kids love them too, and they're just kind of like a nice plain muffin, you know, no chocolate chips, no nuts or anything like that. A great way to use up bananas that you have on your counter. So that is going to be be it for today's video. You guys don't forget to check out Auntie Nono's. All of their seasonings are incredible. I will have a link in the description box below. Don't delay, because the discount link that you guys are going to get, the larger discount, only lasts for a week. So make sure that you order that ASAP. Otherwise, I will see you in my next video. Bye.